Hey everybody, welcome back. I am going to continue on with the Unit 3C Renaissance reading. So I'm going to jump down to page 3 and we're going to read A New Focus in Art. There was a renewed interest in the ideas of the ancient Greece and Romans, or Greek and Romans, due to the philosophers and the teachers from the Byzantine Empire migrating into Italy. Many of the artists, writers, and thinkers built upon the ideas of the classical world. They wanted to improve or expand on those ideas and achievements. They combined classical influence with humanism. Humanism influenced or emphasized the individual in daily life. Humanism also stressed individual potential and achievement. Humanism was expressed in the Renaissance art, architecture, science, religion, and philosophy. So now we're going to stop and think, what is humanism? And humanism is this sentence right here. It emphasized the individual in daily life. So an example would be if you've ever read a book and a teacher has asked your opinion on the book, that's a humanistic idea because every one of you is a different person. Humanism is your idea is valid, especially when you have evidence that supports your reason. So if someone showed you a picture of a painting of the Mona Lisa and they said, "Do you like it?" Your humanistic idea would be, "Yeah, I like it because of the detail," or "No, I don't like it because of the color scheme that was used." Humanism is anything that you get to apply your opinion, your individual idea, and that it's part of daily life. It's something that you do automatically. The next paragraph talks about the Renaissance paintings that glorified the religious themes using realistically drawn human forms and new techniques of shading and perspective. And perspective is when you make something look three-dimensional. This style of realism influenced the sculpting as well as an emphasis on anatomical correctness and subjects placed in more realistic poses. For example, the body of a sculpture would have had the head and shoulders face one direction with the hips and the legs facing a different direction. The best example of what they just talked about is, when you get your school pictures and you have to put your feet in that little spot, and then you twist your body a little bit and you turn your head a little bit and it feels kind of awkward, but then you get your school picture and it ends up looking normal. That technique is actually called contrapposto, and it's kind of the best example, like a school picture pose. Renaissance artists' appreciation of the ancient Greeks and Romans can be seen in these themes. So this is a picture of the School of Athens by Raphael, and you can see the blue lines give it that perspective so that you kind of get that closer people are a little bit bigger. As you get further away, they're farther away. An important idea here says there's still strong religious beliefs from the Middle Ages that were happening during the Renaissance. They really focused on making things, again, more realistic. So your stop and pause here you get to be a little fun, get to be an artist, and you're actually going to try to draw something realistically. So you're going to use shading, perspective, and try to make something look real. I think the best example is like if you've ever had to draw like an apple and you shade it a certain way, you're going to do that. The next one, we're going to get into some of the people. So what our job right now is to, while we're reading, we are going to highlight or underline the achievements of each of these famous Renaissance figures. And the first person we're going to talk about is someone named Michelangelo. And he is one multi-talented icon of the Renaissance, was Michelangelo. He sculpted David, which we discussed previously in this document, and La Pieta is right here. Michelangelo's works were so well respected and revered that the Pope, remember the head of the Catholic Church, hired him to paint the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel in St. Peter's Cathedral. And if you remember from our QFT, we looked at this, and a lot of you had some ideas of what it was, but it is the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. So some things I would highlight: the Sistine Chapel, David, and La Pieta. Michelangelo did many, many other things, but those are probably three of the best known. Then we go on to Leonardo da Vinci. Leonardo da Vinci is considered to be a classic example of a Renaissance man. He is called this because he was a painter, sculptor, architect, city planner, inventor, and mathematician. Da Vinci even invented an early version of the tank and the helicopter. His famous paintings by Da Vinci include The Last Supper and the Mona Lisa, and he had numerous sketches. He actually kept a collection of books called the Codex, which you guys watched in that Brain Pop video. Here's The Last Supper. Here's the Mona Lisa. This man was wonderful at trying new things. And if he wasn't good at something, he kept at it, which was something that a lot of people back then didn't really feel the need to do. But Leonardo da Vinci kept working harder and harder to figure things out. The next person we're going to talk about is Machiavelli. And it said, besides art, the Renaissance was impacted by political writings. A man named Niccolo Machiavelli wrote a book called The Prince. He offered advice to rulers on how to stay in power. His advice often suggested doing whatever it took to stay in power, even causing fear in his subjects. In The Prince, Machiavelli said, "It's better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." So I would definitely highlight The Prince. And I would probably highlight his quote because I think it's pretty telling of him. It's better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. And I always think back to like my mom. I was a little bit scared of my mom because she was tough on me, but I knew she was doing it because she loved me. And now I respect her so much more. So I kind of think like parents are good examples of that. Teachers, hopefully, are good examples of that. You guys respect us. You fear us just a little bit because you don't want to get in trouble. But you know in the end that we love you and we want you to be the best person you can be and the best student you can be. And the last person we're going to talk about, we've already talked a little bit about, but his name is Johannes Gutenberg. And this passage says, ideas of the Renaissance spread quickly thanks to a German inventor named Johannes Gutenberg. As you learned previously, books had been copied by hand by monks. This took a very long time and made books very expensive and scarce, which means hard to find. Gutenberg created a printing press with movable type. Books could be copied much more quickly. Most of the first books printed were copies of the Bible and other religious writings. Now a person could read the Bible in his or her own language. And what's great is they could get it at a fairly reasonable cost. So we're going to highlight printing press or movable type. I'm thinking you could highlight the Bible and other religious books. You could also say that they could copy them quicker. You could also even add in there, if you wanted to annotate a little bit, that they were much cheaper. And it actually is going to make kind of the whole civilization, the whole nation, the whole area that we're talking about much more inclined to read. So they're going to increase the reading levels of everyone. Everyone wants to learn, and everyone has the ability to learn.